All right, how much should you pay for French Lop? Depends on your goals. But first off, let's start with the average price range that I see today. You can find lower end around $100. However, that's pretty rare and few and far between, and it's usually someone selling out of the breed, or they're in an area where it's just harder to sell, or it can be that they're not very well marketed, they've not been around very long. On the other spectrum, about three, even a little more sometimes, $350, when it's not a rare color, is a more of a show rabbit price. You can find them around $200 sometimes, but the average median price is $150 to $200. However, I have been quoted a price as high as $600 for a chocolate French Lop. So color can change things, but also recognize that the price does not dictate the quality or the show quality of the animal. All right. So how do I make my purchasing decisions or decide how much I am willing to spend? Okay. I always am clear on my goals and the direction that I'm trying to take the rabbitry in general. For me, I still want to focus on conformation first. I want to try to do my best to remove the lower quality 10% every year and replace with is good, never below, but at least equal to or better than I have currently with replacements. Now, I charge $150 starting for my rabbits, and I'm working my way up to charging about $200 for the really good ones that I can produce. Now, there's a reason that, and those typically will be more the older they are, because they've started to develop and we can really see what they're starting to look like. Now, if they are older and your goal is a pet, then the holdup on that is that the older I buy a rabbit, the less likely they are to warm up to me. And so if your goal is a pet, then don't worry so much about conformation and just go for the younger ones that you can get. Okay. Now, here's where it gets a little bit down into the more nitty gritty. I was asked by someone on the Facebook page of how, would I spend X amount of dollars for a rabbit, and the price was around $300. Yes, I have. However, this was already a bred or proven doe. She had not raised the litter herself, and it was her first one. But here's why I would probably not buy that one is because, for one, she didn't raise it herself, but I don't know the areas or the circumstances around that breeding. Was it just that she didn't feed them well? Is it she didn't have any idea what she was doing? It is normal for some first-timers to not know what to do. However, when I first started, I was hand feeding half the litter usually for the first couple of weeks, week and a half or so, to help keep the ones that were underfed to be able to compete with the other siblings and be able to eat. About 5 years ago, I decided to start keeping does from the mamas or the does that were feeding their litters well, and my workload has been cut in half. So that is why when it comes to certain circumstances around their maternity abilities, that I just wonder, and so that's where you have to make that call yourself. Is $300 unreasonable? No. But if that animal, though, when it's $300, the coat better be able to get the way it should be. It should not be having trouble getting a nice, good coat on it. She better not been bred more than 2 times. If she's bred and had any more than that, no. Because here's the thing with does is that just because they're proven, they might have had 3 or 4 litters, and she is running low on eggs, and she's not going to produce more than a couple litters of two kits for you. The one thing you also have to remember is that French Lops live about 5 years. Like it or not, that's the way it is. So if she is 3 to 4, the chances are she's probably had several litters, and she's probably getting close to the production. If there is no chance that I can get 2 or 3 kits from her to at the minimum make her money back, on top of getting a replacement for her, then I'm probably not going to invest that kind of money. If in that instance, it's definitely, I'm not buying it off of a color. And then on the other side of it is that I better be able to make my money back from the investment. And then, is she going to improve the current quality? Because some people, just because they're a senior, they've produced, and they're a unique color, will charge that much. So that's where it becomes a thing of you have to know what your goals are and then find the little details that people may not say that will cause you to lose your investment. Okay. Another feature or, characteristic that I would want for all of mine is to have a full pedigree or a complete one. Now that doesn't mean that they have the like Grand Championship numbers or anything like that. I care there's the rabbit name, the ID number, the color, and then the weight of all of them. Will I not buy an animal because of it? No, but I did buy a buck from someone. I don't really even know who the person was, but once I got the pedigree, I was a little disappointed, but I got a good deal on it as well. So it's a trade-off, but his pedigree is very incomplete. And so I don't know a lot of the weight history of the animals and things like that. So it's kind of difficult. People will breed an animal to strengthen a certain feature of them. But the problem is then when you go to sell them or when you try to bring in new blood, a lot of times your litters may not be successful at all. You can get not deformities, but just have major issues that really the litters end up dying or just extremely poor quality because those genes just don't mesh. And so that's where I also won't invest in line bred animals as much as possible, as avoidable as possible. One or two, like further back that are kind of related, that's not a big deal. But it's when, a buck was bred back to its mom or a mom, was bred back to, or two half related animals are bred to each other, stuff like that. That's just, that can cause you problems too. When it comes to color, unless I am going to try to develop and make a certain color very strong and match the standards, I will not pay for a color just because it's a certain color, even if I kind of like it. I believe for us as breeders, our job is to be developing the animal to meet the breed standard and be removing or at least culling the genetic disqualifications from them. We should not be breeding sloppily and just kind of going, this is cute, let's produce this. Not the best way to produce. When it comes to features, or let's just say that the animal is, for the most part, it's recognized color, it's going to meet the recognized weight, things like that. When it comes to the crown or the width or things like that, I will purchase something that still does well in all the other areas, but has a feature that I am lacking. Like the perfect example was a doe that I purchased back in May. Her main good feature was she has a lot of width. However, she's kind of fine boned, and that is it's a little bit more of a fixable problem. If it's something to where her, like the rest of her body was terrible and she was poor flesh condition, her coat was terrible, things like that, then I would not have purchased her. So keep that in mind as well. Just because you have one good aspect of an animal and you pair them with another one that counteracts that, the gene pool does not know these are the good pieces and these are the good pieces of mom and dad, so let's make the babies look like this. Does that make sense? That was a logical thing that I saw a lot when I was first starting, and I'm like, this makes no sense. Like the genes do not go good pieces, make babies, right? It just happens and you get what you get. And so you can end up with a lot of really bad looking babies too. So that's why I always choose the animal based off of its standalone quality, and then the features that I would like to improve on. At the very minimum, they cannot be poorer quality than the ones I've got. I'll stick with what I got before going backwards, especially because French Lops take almost a year to be fully grown. If there were like Holland Lops where, within half a year they're considered a senior, then that's a different story. And you can experiment a little bit more and faster. But French Lops are a long game. And so just go into it knowing your goals. Make sure the animals you're purchasing serve that goal. But then also go into it with every potential expense is a loss. And so you don't know what that could end up being. And you have to be willing to experience that loss. Okay? So I hope this was helpful for you to kind of just make some other decisions when you're making purchases and help you grow your rabbitry and help you understand the French Lop breed a little bit more and how you can start growing and raising them as well.